world, and welcome to We the People, an American pod show. Tonight, we have Jenn Thomas with us, and we are going to have an awesome conversation. So, hello, Jenn.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
It's going to break through it. Once we break through the first initial part, it gets a little more comfortable. So, I think the best place to start this is where are you from?
Merced, California.
Merced, California.
Yes, yes.
Where's Merced, California?
Right in the center of the state. It's where a lot of the agriculture for the world, actually, it's called the breadbasket of the world. So we've got almonds, every kind of vegetable you can imagine, cows, everything. Everything is grown there. So grapes of wrath, the Dust Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, so my grandparents came out during the Dust Bowl.
Right,
Yep.
the Dust Bowl. That when you drive through there, you see the signs and stuff where they're talking
Yes.
about the water stuff. I don't really know much about that. Do you know about that, being as you're from there?
Wait, the drought?
Yeah, some like the water stuff. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what California's situation is right now. Currently, I left in 2013, and so now I feel like I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Right. So have you been here since then?
Since 2013, yeah.
Okay.
And well, I lived in Merced until I was 18, and then I went to the Bay Area. I attended Berkeley.
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 What? Isn't that that's like a elite school?
Very,
right?
yes. And I studied architecture there.
Okay.
And I wanted to go to Cal Poly. That was the funny thing. Like I applied to Cal Poly because I was told my opportunities would be limitless if I went to a tech school. And then I found out I didn't get into Cal Poly, and I was pretty upset about that. And then the next week, I got an acceptance letter from Cal, and I was like, I'm okay with this. It's all right.
Right. So then how long were you in, so Berkeley's in San Francisco, right?
Berkeley is about like a 20-30 minute BART ride from San Francisco.
You said boat ride?
BART, so
BART?
Bay Area Rapid Transit. It's their,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. What does it mean, rapid transit? Is it just like a Max? Or?
Yeah, it's just like Max,
Okay.
except much, much dirtier.
So it's not the trolley, the thing that we always see like on movies and stuff? You see
No.
Okay.
It's just rapid transit.
That's not rapid?
No.
Not rapid. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. So how is that, man? Living in that area? I mean, because you're coming from agriculture to now going to this big city life, right?
Yeah, it was overwhelming, and talk about big fish in a small pond. I was one of 10 valedictorians at my school, and there were so many of us that I actually refused to give a speech. It was just like, I'm not giving a speech. And then going to Berkeley, and I think the first Halloween there, going to Castro Valley and hanging out, or not Castro Valley, the Castro district in San Francisco, and hanging out with that community, and just there's nothing like that in Merced, not really. And so it was really nice to just be exposed to different ways of thinking. Merced's an incredibly Christian school.
Okay.
I went to Merced Christian School.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
so, and then I went to a public high school. And actually, my first day at public high school, I got called a bitch.
What?
I got called a smart bitch.
So like you just show up and that's what goes down?
I was in biology class, and I knew all the answers to the questions because I was in a private school,
Right.
and I had already taken that class. And so a football player was like, what a smart bitch, like right behind my back.
Okay, so it wasn't like aggressive, like you smart bitch. It was more like, what what a smart bitch.
I guess.
Like he was
yeah.
observing you, like, man, you're super smart.
And the teacher at the front was the football coach, so I
Right.
just had to deal with it.
Right.
So that was my first exposure. I'm really glad that I went to a public high school before I went to the Bay Area.
Right, I
Yeah.
can imagine. That would have been huge shock, right? Later,
Yeah,
just throw you into
exactly.
the world and see what happens.
Yeah.
See if she comes out.
Yeah,
We'll find
sink or
out.
swim.
Yeah, that's interesting. So then, how was that? I mean, with your studying and being there and all these people, like the school itself. I mean, some people may never even get the opportunity to see like the school. I mean, how many students are at Berkeley? Would you say, like in a class?
When I was there, I think it was around 30,000 kids,
In
that's
the whole school.
in the
right?
whole school, including masters and PhD.
Okay.
Can-
So like when you go into a class, how many would you say?
Oh God, it depended on the class. The lectures could have 400 kids.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
It was incredible.
And then
yeah.
when you were back in your hometown, how many were in class there, roughly?
20 to 30, depending on the class.
Total different ballgame.
Oh yeah.
and you're in a university.
hmm
Your success is on you.
Yes.
Good luck.
Yes. Exactly.
Either sink or swim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. So how was studying architecture?
You know, it was an interesting path because I initially thought that I wanted to double major in structural engineering and architecture.
Okay.
And then I realized being in a small country town like Merced, I wasn't necessarily getting the right access to science, physics, math. I just I wasn't up to par when I got to college. I realized, you know, maybe I shouldn't go into structural engineering because I can't understand any of these statics courses at all. And so then I went and spoke to the dean, and I was just being me, but I was wearing this bright red dress and this really elaborate beaded top, and I just went in there and I was just like, this isn't for me. And she was like, yeah, look at you. Of course, like, have you seen all of the other students in your class? And I appreciated that she made it really easy for me to transition to architecture, and then I just focused on that.
Right.
Yeah, so I figured it out first semester, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna stick with architecture.
So wait. So at first what program were you in at first then?
So your first semester, you're just taking core classes, so everybody's taking the same, like chemistry, calculus,
Right.
and all of that.
Okay.
So you have, I entered into the engineering department at Cal to begin with, but then transferred over to the environmental design department within a semester or so.
So clarify for me because I'm done. So you're saying Cal and then Berkeley.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
is
it's
it
the
the
same.
same?
It's interchangeable. Yeah,
Okay.
Cal.
Okay.
Since Berkeley was the first university, UC, University of California, they just call it Cal.
Gotcha.
But there are multiple University of California schools now. But since it was the first, Berkeley is just called Cal sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're done graduating, and what happens then? Are you nervous? Here comes graduation. What am I going to do? Or did you kind of already be shopping and looking for opportunities prior to?
So luckily, one of my friends was looking for somebody to take over his position while he went abroad. I think he was going to New Zealand for a semester or something like that.
Okay.
And I said I was available, and I went in and interviewed, and it was a structural engineering firm, which was nice, you know, because I'm interested in structural engineering, even though I'm not good at it. And so,
And how do you judge whether you're good or not good at
oh,
structural engineering?
you know, that's a
If the building
to-
collapses?
yeah,
No.
yeah, exactly. I didn't get very far into those classes at all, but I appreciate it and respect it. And so that was in 2008, and it was the summer after my junior year. Yeah.
2008.
So it was perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect.
I had a job, and not only did I have a job, it was with CPMC Cathedral Hill, which is a major hospital in San Francisco, and it's government mandated that all hospitals that were built can withstand, I can't remember if it's a 7.0 earthquake, it's just an extreme earthquake.
Yeah, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You're in the Bay Area, California in general, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that set me up for the recession. I had a job once I graduated, and I was able to do that for a couple of years, and it was an amazing experience because structural engineers have this amazing calculated way of working through problems, and that was a good training session for me.
Right.
And they were also at that same time using this new software called Revit that only a few people were using. They weren't even teaching it in school yet. And I was like, oh, okay. And, you know, I was using AutoCAD at the time. And then I found out that I didn't have to draw section cuts multiple times and to create different views. It would do it automatically. And I was like, well, obviously this is the answer.
So can you explain to me a little bit of AutoCAD, Revit?
Sure.
Just that way
Yeah.
I understand. It's like a program, right?
Yeah, they're
Essentially?
both software programs through Autodesk, and AutoCAD is 2D lines, and that's it. So if you want to draw a section of a plan, you have to do all of that manually. But with Revit, you actually draw a 3D wall, 3D door, 3D window, and then all you have to do is draw a line from one end of the wall to the other to create that section cut in Revit, and it automatically creates that for you. You don't have to draw any lines, just add annotations.
Gotcha. And so it's essentially a building program.
It is, yeah,
Okay.
for construction documents.
All right, which makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and that makes me understand a little bit like how where we met was with Construction Specifications Institute.
Yes.
Which is all about construction documents.
Yes.
Right? And
Yep.
project delivery and all that. So it's interesting. So then, at that junction, when do you end up coming to Portland then? I mean, what was
Right.
Yeah, how did that happen? How did you go from being in San
Right.
Francisco to eventually being
In Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Right. So I had a couple of different jobs. I worked for an interior designer for a few months, and she was designing beautiful mansions out in Alamo, California. And then after that, I worked for another company called Trans Systems, and they were doing a lot of government jobs. And I met a guy there who was like, "Hey, there's this new company, and they're doing BIM consulting. Are you interested?"
right?
And I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested. Revit's amazing." And you know, everything back. This is 2010, 2011, and everything was pretty new then. So BIM and Revit at that time were kind of synonymous. That it would be a faux pas to say that now because there's so many amazing software applications out there.
So what's good for clarity is
Mhm.
so then BIM, building information modeling,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Is that the same as Revit then? Because it sounds like you're saying
No,
them
it
in
isn't.
conjunction. Okay,
now
so
it
they're
isn't.
two totally. At
Yeah.
the time, they were though.
At the time, I think it was okay to say that.
Got you, because it was still 3D modeling.
Yeah,
Essentially.
it was all relatively new. Although the first building to ever get 3D modeled was in the Bay Area, and it was in 2004, I think.
Right.
And I was starting my journey in 2008, so roughly 4 years. So all pretty new,
Right.
pretty much.
Yeah, and BIM. I don't know enough about all those different programs, but from what I've seen about BIM, it's pretty cool. Like
Yes.
with the goggles, I think that's the biggest thing, right? People see
Virtual
the goggles.
reality.
Yeah, they see the virtual
Yeah.
reality. And they're like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" Because
Right.
virtual reality, from my understanding, you can get in there, you can look around, and you can see the the building essentially before it's even there.
Right.
Right, and can't you see like the different like utilities? And
Yes.
HVAC and the different.
All of it. Yeah.
Right.
And so you can also do that in a program called Navisworks, and that's what I use most days now because I'm running coordination meetings
Okay.
with general contractors and the trades. And then in addition to Navisworks and virtual reality, there's also augmented reality, which I think people are still working through it. There's some really big companies like Microsoft and Autodesk that are using it in really amazing ways. But basically, you put on the goggles just like you would,
Right.
but you can geolocate your model on your actual site.
Right.
And you can use that, the trades can use that to make sure that they're in alignment with what's been coordinated.
Right.
And that's just
Right.
so exciting to me.
And you can see the building there, right?
Yes.
Inside the goggles.
Yep.
I got to experience this. I don't know if you know Herb. I forget what his BIM. He does BIM.
Okay.
And I put those things on, and I was just like, "There's like pillars here. There's beams.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yep.
This is crazy." And he was explaining that it goes further than that, to where it's like the design work as well. So you can like literally go into like he was explaining like say a doctor's office, how they want everything precise.
Yes.
And so they can essentially let the people that are going to be using it put on the goggles and see before it's ever even built.
And they can mark it up with the wand too. So if
So
there's
they can
something,
actually write and say.
they can take notes, and then that gets saved, and then the people working on the model can review it and change, and then meet up again once it's fixed.
So, do you believe that we're going to be able to use that for like our workforce development, like as far as our apprentices and stuff of that nature, like when it comes to where to put the screws, where it puts, how to attach?
Some people already are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some lucky people are already doing it.
That's the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, from my understanding, like it can monitor the building. They
Yes.
can use that same program to for air leakage and stuff of that nature. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so you can add elements to your ductwork or electricity, and they're sensors essentially that can calculate how much air is going through a duct, how much electricity is going through a wire,
Right.
and that'll tell you how it's affecting the building, and if the owner wants to change it up or maybe turn certain lights off during the night or anything like that. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Have you ever seen Fight Club?
Mhm.
Remember when they put the smiley face on the side of the building?
Yeah, yeah.
The lights just come on in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But okay, so taking a step back, we got sidetracked there a little bit. So then what gets you to Portland?
Okay. Yeah. So eventually I ended up working for a company called Modulus Consulting, and that's the BIM consulting firm that I was talking about and I started there in 2011, and a couple of years in 2013, they say, hey, there's this job, and it's going to be 2 weeks long, and it's in this town called Hillsboro, Oregon. And so I get there, and it's Ronler Acres at Intel, and and it's snowing. And I'm a California girl,
Right.
and so I'm so excited because there's snow on the ground. But I end up working with this amazing general contractor on site, and one thing leads to another, and I'm out there commuting back and forth for 7 months. And
Commuting from
from
California.
PDX to SFO every single week.
What?
Yeah.
All right. Get it done.
Because I lived right next to Golden Gate Park at the time, and a few months into it though. So a few months into it, I call my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, and I say, we need to talk. And he freaks out. And he's he thinks I'm gonna break up with him, and I just say, and this was a voicemail. This wasn't
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't talking to him on the phone. We need to talk, voicemail. And then he calls me back, and he's like, what's going on?
Right.
And
Keep going.
ultimately, I said, hey, I really like it in Portland. Can we move here? Would you be okay with that?
Right.
And he was like, yeah, absolutely, because his family is from Coos Bay, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
And his brother goes to OHSU every few months anyway for appointments. So it all worked out, and we moved to Hillsboro.
Hillsboro.
Yeah.
Are you still in Hillsboro then, or did you?
Yeah. So in 2016, we bought a house.
So, are you with that same company now then?
No.
Yeah.
So in 2015, I went to BIM Forum in Orlando and met this woman, Danielle DeBuncio, and she was giving a presentation on using gaming software to solve construction problems, and my jaw just dropped open.
Right.
And I went up to her, and I was like, total fangirl, just like,
Yeah.
what you're doing is incredible. I think you're amazing. And she and I just kept in touch, and so that was 2015, and then we got breakfast when she was in town. She lives in Chicago, and I was trying to get her to join Modulus, and I didn't know it at the time, but she was trying to get me to join her company. And then one thing led to another, and in 2018, she asked me to join her company.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know, I'll think about it. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
So now I work for a woman-owned international BIM VDC consulting firm. So VDC is virtual design and construction, and BIM is an aspect of VDC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son, he plays, like some of those first-person shooter games.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them that a lot of people are aware of is Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like Minecraft meets Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're building these structures. And so one of my selling points to him was BIM. Because I was like, you got to see this.
Yeah.
Look at this. You're already in the gaming mode, And so it's interesting to hear that she's, had that same
Right.
kind of perspective.
It's so true. And this is going to be totally nerdy, but when I was 10, Nintendo 64 came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I was obsessed. And that actually made it really easy to learn software because I was already thinking in that mindset. It's the same controls to move around in the model.
Right.
Makes it so much easier.
Which games? What game?
Oh,
do you
Mario 64,
Mario 64.
and Mario Kart,
Right,
and
right.
you know.
Mario Kart. I feel like there's got to be like Mario Kart competitions.
Oh, I'm
Oh, yeah.
sure. Everything's online
sure.
now too.
Yeah.
And now I don't do any gaming at all.
Right.
It's just
We seen. I want to say we were at like Target or something, and we seen the classics like Sega,
Mhm.
and we bought it, and we got down on
Oh,
Toe
man.
Jam and Earl.
Oh, I love that game.
Right? I was like, Toe Jam and Earl?
Yeah.
What? We gotta do it just to do it.
That's
and so
awesome.
yeah, so we spent a couple days
Yep.
playing that and doing it. And we did the same thing when we seen the original Nintendo came out too.
Mhm.
It's like you gotta do it. And then I got beat up and Dr. Mario and I cried and I threw the remote for classic's sakes. No, I didn't really, but that's how I recall. Like when you're a kid, right? You're getting beat up. You're like, oh, stupid game. Good times, the good old days, as they say. But yeah, so that's interesting. And it's a great career then?
Oh yeah,
I'm going to assume,
absolutely.
because
Yep.
you've been pursuing it for so long,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
you're still growing and expanding, I imagine.
Yeah,
with
there aren't very many of us who have been in the industry for more than 10 years, so
it. Right.
it's a great position to be in, right place, right time.
See, I've been preaching that with our company, because
Mhm.
I'm like, we're going to need to know BIM.
Mhm.
We're going to need to. It just makes sense.
Mhm.
Would you say that, because you're around it, you're more of an expert than this guy, clearly. Would you say, going into the future,
Mhm.
what platform is probably going to be the most valuable to like every firm to interact as it becomes plans?
Okay. So I Autodesk has been the leader as far as the construction industry is concerned with technology, and they are pushing BIM 360 really hard, and that includes anything that has to do with looking at the plans, talking with each other as a group, providing collaboration. BIM 360, it was called BIM 360 Glue. I think they've changed the name a few times. Allows you to then bring any of your Navisworks files into that, and everything's accessible from the cloud. So the idea is that you have, as long as you have an internet connection, everything's in one place. All of the models, all of the file formats, all of the PDFs.
Right.
Plus they're working with PlanGrid and Building Connected, all kinds of different companies. So I would say just keep an eye on what Autodesk is doing, and then you pretty much know where the industry is headed.
Okay. Yeah, because I imagine that when I think about like, LEED or like saving materials, right?
Mhm.
And being respectful to this planet we live on, just
Mhm.
being aware of waste and things of that nature. I believe, at least I feel like, that it's, as more responsibility starts getting on more people that are building and around the building industry,
Mhm.
I feel like it makes sense to go that direction, right?
Fabrication.
Yeah.
Yeah, fabrication is a huge deal right now, and actually Autodesk University had a discussion on that. I can't remember which hotel firm it was, but they're starting to really embrace prefab,
Mm-hmm.
and it saves money,
Right.
and it saves material, and it saves time, and why wouldn't you want to move in that direction?
Yeah. So, for the sake of time,
Mhm.
I think it's good to shift You also have something really cool going on that I was intrigued by. I thought it was really cool. Just that you were able to pick up on the trend and see the trend when it comes to workforce development around the construction industry.
Right.
And I've been fortunate to be able to be a soundboard, so to speak, right?
Right.
Where I've been able to see these presentations that you're working, and those presentations, one of them you've already put into practice, right? Which was
soft skills and hard hats.
Soft skills
yes.
and hard hats.
Yep.
Which touches on what?
So the whole idea behind soft skills is that it allows for better collaboration, better two-way open communication, and innovation. And so if you're practicing those three things properly, your company is going to make more money. And I took a step back and kind of researched, well, who's been doing this already? And it turns out that the U.S. military has actually done a lot of research on the benefits of soft skills. So there's so many statistics and dates and names and numbers, and I don't have it all memorized yet. I'll be 100% honest.
Oh yeah.
But just looking at a report that came out in the 70s by two men who were hired by the U.S. Army to study soft skills, it became very, very clear that there are benefits for people like officers who are in charge of managing other people to really understand how to properly communicate with people and how to properly work with other people. And it was fascinating to me because when you think about it, the military wants to keep their soldiers alive. And safety is a huge concern in the construction industry too.
Right.
So I found a way to say, well, hey, you know, if the military is doing this, shouldn't the construction industry be doing it too?
And you know, being a veteran myself of 6 years United States Army, I would say you can almost take it a step further. You know, it's not only do they want to keep their members alive, they also want to keep them thriving because it makes operations go a lot smoother.
Yeah.
And so having those skills, it allows you to communicate better. It allows you to organize better. It allows the workflow to happen a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot smoother, a lot less tension between members.
Yep.
Because you start to understand what the other individual is going through.
Right.
And so you're like, okay, I get it. You need some time, you need some space to make sure you operate or execute that properly. Totally understandable. I get it. So I'm gonna give you a sec, you know?
And that was actually the really cool thing is that there's this man, he passed away now, but his name is Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And he created a system, well, I guess I'll just call it a thought process called nonviolent communication. And he brought that to war-torn countries all over the world and practiced that and had people who were in conflict and in pain allowing them to talk and then letting them know that he heard them and that he was able to then use all of that information to then properly inform himself where they're coming from. That really allowed him to then take what needed to be taken to the next step. And he also said that any judgment that you're facing is just the reflection of an unmet need. And that's so true, right? Whenever, even in the construction industry, that happens all the time. You run into somebody who's having a particularly bad day, or maybe they just don't like you.
Right.
And being able to just listen to where they're coming from and then letting them know that they're heard allows them to see that you are paying attention,
Right.
and then hopefully they can then listen to what you're saying, and you can just move forward
Right.
with whatever the task is.
So some sort of active listening.
Active listening.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a very complex situation, right? When you talk about that, but it's a lot of variables to it.
Mhm.
However, I think it's incredibly valuable to bring awareness to people, especially right now with the workforce need.
Mhm.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, there's such a huge need for skilled workers when it comes to the construction trades.
Right.
I mean, we've seen multiple statistics on how that looks, and we all kind of know that if we don't do something, we could potentially be in a hard spot.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think innovation, because we're going to be under pressure,
Mhm.
will force us to overcome that. And I think that that's exactly what you're doing, is being innovative by bringing awareness to a situation like that, and
Thank
showing
you.
that there's those skills around the military, and there's a lot of military personnel who are transitioning out of the military,
Mhm.
and it's also valuable to apply that to people's operations.
Yes.
Now, there's also another area that you've dove into as well,
Yes. Yes,
Right.
there is.
which is
Women in construction.
okay,
I am a woman in construction,
right?
and having been in the industry for 11 plus years now, you know, at the beginning, I made sure to listen and pay attention to my surroundings.
hmm
But I feel like a decade plus in, it's okay to start talking about what I've been seeing.
Right.
And it turns out that there are statistics and other people's experiences to back up everything that I'm seeing,
Right.
and that you can take emotion completely out of it because there are facts
Right.
to base the conversation on.
And I feel like as a man or a male that's around the industry, and just being somebody that I've done like yard work over my life. Like I had a
Right.
landscaping company at one point, and I've done some remodel work
Mhm.
and stuff of that nature. It's on a big scale. I feel like we almost have to take the emotion out of it,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
because there's this huge backlog of history around just men in power positions and women not having that opportunity and equal rights and nonstop history, right? The trying to get equality in place.
Now,
And
the reason I say it's important to take emotion out of it is because you, just like nonviolent communication,
Right.
you want the other person to hear you.
Right.
And more often than not, if somebody sees a tear,
Right.
they tune out. And you can't I mean, emotion has a time and a place, and emotion is important and it is valid.
Right.
But in order to move the conversation forward, it's very important to focus on the facts.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, for sure, because it's hard, especially to evolve to a better place
Mhm.
with that and have it become more accepting,
Right.
and I don't even know if that's the word I should use, accepting, right? Though I feel like
Mhm.
it become common practice.
Right.
Like, though that's just common nature, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't have like the study behind it, but I do think that we as a society are aware of that.
Mhm.
We are aware that the typical I'm a man, go move those
Right.
rocks,
Right. Yeah.
pick up your shovel,
Right.
let's get something, let's build something big, I think we're aware, and we're becoming consciously aware as a society and as a community. And I believe that it is going to be one of those situations, because it is so complex and it has such a huge history. I mean, that's literally part of the culture of building a building.
Right.
Big, build something big, you know? Like that's part of it, you know? And then you get all these egos and testosterone filled alphas, as they say, whether they're alphas or not, you know, they feel like, I gotta be burly, I gotta be strong, I gotta be.
But look at Portland as a prime example. I mean, we have a huge LGBTQ community.
I got you. Watch this one. LGB plus.
That's right.
Community.
Yes.
I like how I did that. I'm working it because I'm like, remember all the acronyms.
There are people in that community who are just as capable of, you know, being big and burly and picking stuff up, and they may feel marginalized hanging out with a group like that.
Correct, and that's another thing. Yeah, totally. That's a great observation. That's a great angle of observation to be aware of.
It is.
Because that's true. That's a whole nother community that we need to learn to accept.
Exactly. And so I'm focusing on women in construction just because I am a woman, and it's self-serving for me to hold this position and promote it. But the other thing that I'm seeing is that women make up 50% of the U.S. workforce, but only 9% of the construction workforce. And the construction industry has had a labor shortage lower than the national average for like 60 plus years. And so you can see from that women are choosing not to join the industry. And I don't think it's for the right reasons, because I've had this amazing career with technology and construction, and I see women project engineers all the time kicking ass, doing amazing stuff. A few women VPs out there with construction firms also kicking ass and taking names. And so we're all capable of doing the work. It's just a matter of people realizing that it's really about women supporting women, in my opinion, and then having men support that conversation.
Correct, 100%. And that's exactly where I was thinking, is that it takes conscious people, it takes a conscious community to be aware of that and to help nurture that. You know, 'cause I don't believe that every company has that burly kind of feel.
No,
that's just a stereotype.
This is very much a stereotype.
It's very much a stereotype. And
I've worked with plenty of GCs. I know that not everybody's like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good stuff.
But then the other thing is that there are these, I hate to use this term, but microaggressions, where you have a sign that says men at work. And then why not say men and women at work? Or take it a step further for anybody who is gender non-binary and saying people at work. We're all just people. And the construction,
humans at
we're
work.
humans at work.
People at work.
And the construction industry has a labor shortage, and it needs to be filled by the people who aren't currently in that field. And innovation is 100% going to bring more money to a company. And innovation comes through diversity. That's a hard fact. We were talking about facts earlier. Statistically, if a company is more innovative, they're making more money.
So, as a shout out to Plaza, is it Plaza?
In Manhattan. Yeah.
Plaza Construction, because they came out with that sign.
They did.
Which I think pushes us in that right direction. But I think that the innovation now, taking it a step further, would be to put, you know, people at work or humans at work.
Exactly.
You know, just to get rid of all that, because of the, what did you say, non-binary?
Gender non-binary.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm still working through it.
Oh, I mean, maybe I said it
know.
wrong. You know,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. But, and I
I'm
think
trying
that-
to.
and
We
I
all
think-
make mistakes.
And I think that's what it needs. Is it
Yeah.
needs for everybody to be understanding that this is a change.
Yes.
We're evolving.
Yeah.
Give us some time.
Right.
You know, especially because that's the way it's always been.
Yes.
And so, you know, I was around operation supervising
Mhm.
for a while in logistics, and I actually have like a whole presentation on change and how to implement change in an operation,
Mhm.
because that's a complex thing.
Yes.
You come up against all these norms, so people have all these norms that they're dealing with,
Mhm.
and they all of a sudden feel insecure
Yeah.
if you're going to change something. So you have to like preemptive prep them like almost 60 days ahead of time,
Right.
letting them know there's going to be an operational change.
Yeah.
And it might be something as moving this bin to the other side of the warehouse.
Yeah, just getting them open to the idea of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can't just make that change without, especially if they've been working there for a while.
Mhm.
They have to be part of that conversation.
Right. And when people get upset, I mean, I think that just goes straight back to judgment being a reflection of an unmet need.
Correct.
If somebody's getting upset about something, it's because they were hurt in the past.
Right.
You know, even I'm putting on the Women in Construction event in January.
Yeah.
I got a couple of nasty emails from women.
Really?
Yeah, and
Interesting.
I had to remember that they were very likely hurt in the past by this industry in some capacity or another, and just being incredibly conscious of what's being said and how it's being said is important. But at the same time, you also want to you need people supporting your cause,
Right.
and that includes men and women.
And women. Yeah. Community.
The whole community has to come together and do it. And so if women in construction are trying to increase the number of women, they're going to need men who support them,
Right.
who are rallying behind them. And we can't do that if we shut people out.
Right.
So
For the sake of the time, Megan.
You got about 7 minutes.
Okay, that's where I was at. Thank you. So, to keep that going, it makes I almost feel like I need to polish up that change presentation. You know, because I'm like there's a change that's needing to happen there, and to educate ourselves on how does that change happen. You know, and the idea that you guys came up with for the learning libations, right, with women in construction,
yeah.
it's, from my understanding, you have, if you're a male in a company, you're incurred.
Okay.
Is that what's going
so
on there?
I can't say that. If you are a leader at your company,
Okay.
bring an employee at your company.
Okay.
With the idea being that there is going to hopefully be someone in that group who doesn't know the statistics on
Okay.
women in construction, and either the leader or the employee will benefit from having participated in the conversation that's going on right now,
Right.
and being exposed to statistics that they might not otherwise be aware of.
Okay.
So
You're learning.
that goes straight back to just this is a topic for everyone. We want everyone to participate.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I don't know if you've ever attended OAMI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oregon Association of Minorities Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Sam Brooks. the
Yes,
founder
Sam
over there.
Brooks.
Yeah,
He's
he says
amazing.
everyone's in and no one's out.
Yeah.
And there was a Camp Alma that with Veterans Outreach, you know, with me being in Veterans Outreach with the AGC.
Mhm.
He was talking about Camp Alma, and I had brought it up, and you know, I said it's, you know, it's for, you know, it's a camp where we can come, you know, if you're transitioning, it's just like-minded individuals who are veterans, they can come and be around positive people, and that's the idea. And he says, you know, yeah, for, you know, the men and women, you know, brothers and sisters of arms. And I said, yeah, well, I said, that's the thing, though, is that because of that situation, and, you know, some of the women may have experienced something we don't know, the individual who's running that camp was like, we can't focus on that, and so it might have to be just men. And so I mentioned that to Sam, and he says, I can't, great what you guys are doing, but I don't want no part of it.
Right.
Because everyone's in and no one's out.
Exactly.
And if it's doing that, and I was like, man.
Yeah.
And when he said that to me, it made me even rethink. Like, it made me shift and go, because I kind of felt it in my gut when they were saying that's what the camp was for. I felt it, you know, and I was like, you know, because I felt like we need to be supportive of that whole community.
Right.
And I mean, I understand why they're focusing there.
Yeah.
Because he's a male veteran, and so
Right,
that's.
yeah.
But it did make me kind of step back as an individual, because I agree. I like the everyone's in, no one's out.
Yeah.
I like that a lot better. It makes me feel better in my gut. I get the warm and fuzzy.
Exactly.
And I'm like, all right, I'm proud to be a human.
Yep.
You know, I'm proud to be on this planet. I'm proud to be part of that.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've had a shift.
Good.
So,
Everybody's learning.
yeah.
Everybody. And I think that's the important takeaway.
We can think these things.
Yeah.
Phones.
Exactly.
Communication.
Right.
Quick, rapid, so fast, streamlined. Don't be a bad person.
Right.
Don't be a bad person, because it'll go across the world so quick.
Exactly.
You know, you might have said something behind doors and somebody caught it on little video and boom.
Isn't that fascinating, though, how
awesome.
shame works?
I'm
How shame
telling
gets people to be good people?
I'm telling you, it's great. I like the accountability of it.
Well, yeah.
Man, I'm all about it. Like, I'm like, embrace it. Let's go. You know, and
If that's what it takes, man.
that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it's good. It's good stuff. You know, I mean, I can see the day when I don't know if you're familiar with vlogging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the day that, like, if you're gonna take on a public position, then guess what? You're public.
An influencer.
Yep, you're an
Yeah.
influencer, and you're public. You're gonna have somebody follow you around, and they're gonna document your day, and they're gonna put it out there so everybody can kind of see what you did that day. And
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, maybe not as much when you get home, but I think that they're still gonna want to know a little bit about your household.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, maybe not all the privacy stuff. We don't need to know your personal things.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Like, we don't need to see your butt on the TV or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? You can keep that. but I think a little bit of your family and you know, maybe even your whatever it might be.
Well, and that's the thing. It's about connection, right? People want to connect with other people.
Right.
And I think that's why we're so fascinated with
Yeah.
other people's lives. Like, how is this person in some way connected to what I'm doing with my life?
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know, they're just doing something completely different than what I'm doing, and I want to learn more about that. I want to connect that way.
Right.
I think ultimately it's human nature to want to collaborate and have two-way communication and innovate together. So
Good stuff.
yeah,
Good stuff.
which is hilarious because I've been focused on technology for 10 years, and I ultimately found out technology will do nothing for you if the team isn't working well together.
Right.
You can have the best technology in the world, and if the people aren't collaborating, it's worthless.
Jen, this has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you came on to share this. You have this platform here. It's going to go out there to the world. It's all yours. Say whatever you need to say to the people. What do you have to say to the people?
Oh, I mean, be kind to one another. Just
It's there.
we're
Right there.
we're looking
Boom,
right here.
Red,
Okay.
red light says that's where we're at.
Be kind to one another. Work together, and everything's gonna be fine.
It's gonna all be all right.
It's gonna be
people.
okay, guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for coming on. It was awesome. This has been a great episode on We the People, an American pod. There you are. We the People, an American pod show. Peace out, world. Keep rocking the free world.